Hello, I am your host, Dr. Carmen Maldonado, and this is Desde el Origen. And when we think about life, I think everybody always have someone that thinks outside the box, that is creative. It starts with one thing and it changes, but always with a goal to achieve. And I think that's one of the characteristics that I could use to describe my dear friend and colleague, Dr. Michelle Borrero.
Thank you, Carmen.
Of
Thank you, Carmen,
course,
for having me.
Of course, I am really, it's a pleasure for me to have you in this podcast, obviously, especially because you're part of this team, a very important team that is called the Blueprint of Life, that is sponsoring this podcast. In particular, you are a professor of biology, but you also are in charge of all the outreach and educational component of this grant. Mm-hmm. So I think it's very appropriate to have you here talk about all your process and how you became what you are right now. And so in addition to your work to the Blueprint of Life, you also are the director of the Center for Science and Math Education Research. Mm-hmm. And how long have you been doing that?
That's been, that center was made with support from NSF, and it started around 12, 13 years ago.
Okay, so it's been almost half the time you've been part of our faculty in the biology department.
Yes.
And so I know that your focus in our department has been into immunobiology and also molecular biology, and focus more on science education research, and in particularly training students at the undergraduate level. And so, but this what you are now did not happen like all of a sudden. You know, it was a whole process of many experiences and things that determine you as a scientist. But there was something that is different from a path of a scientist, which is that you like the arts, in particularly drama.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes. I actually didn't think of myself as a scientist growing up. I was kind of nerdy, I like to read a lot, but I didn't do science fairs or, break apart things to figure out what they are made of or anything like that. But I did like theater, and in high school I was part of the drama club, whatever, and when I came to college, I started as a pre-med, but during my first year here, because I did my undergrad here at UPR, Rio Piedras, I struggled with my math class. And to me, that meant that I was not good for science.
I see.
So I left and went to drama. And I changed majors, and I became a drama major, but kept taking my biology classes because I like biology.
I see.
And that mixture kind of carried on throughout my life. And I think when you teach, I put my own little show for my students, and I make my own script and everything. So that's how they intertwine.
Now this gives me more perspective because knowing how you engage with others from the standpoint of being sensitive to what's going on, but also bring joy and passion to the things that you do. So that makes total sense to me. And so, so this, going back a little bit to the Origen, So when you were at school, you just said that science was not your main interest. But
I was good in this. I mean, I was a straight A student, so I was the nerdy type. But I mean, my mom. My mom worked at the medical sciences campus. She was a secretary.
Okay.
So they always saw me. I have good grades. You're gonna be a doctor. And something inside of me said, I don't want to be a doctor. I never really got interested in being a doctor. As a child, I would play to be a teacher or whatever else, but not a doctor. Never really was in my interest. So it was like I was good in science, I was good at math, but never, I didn't know what a scientist was anyway, So like if you were good at science, you were a doctor, and I didn't see myself doing that. So throughout high school, I just got good grades, and at some point, actually when I did my college board, you say what you want to be. I said I wanted to be a psychologist.
Huh.
And then I found out that you had to do a PhD to become a psychologist.
Yes.
And I said, I don't want to be in school for that long. So the irony of life, because now I ended up being that and a little bit longer.
Yes.
But so I really didn't know what I wanted to be. I just, so I applied to college, and my mom basically was like, put pre-med in there, and I did, very obedient. And I started, and I figured, I will figure out what I wanted to do. I wanted to do something, if I stay in science, related to health. So I consider something like med tech, or even like technical in radiology. So I look at all those things, but not a physician. And long story, I intertwined a couple of stories in there that maybe we can get to talk about it later. And I found what a scientist does when I was in college, and what research is, and that set it for me.
So now that you mentioned your experience in college, I guess you did undergraduate research
Yes.
while you were in
Yes.
even drama and biology?
Yes. So I started here as a pre-med, and I got to be doing some summer program, I don't remember very well, but in the medical sciences campus in my first year. So though I was already set on, I'm not staying in naturales because I didn't do well in my pre-calculus class. So, I did my research experience. And so for the second year, I remained in that lab, and I changed majors, but I took general biology.
Okay.
Those messes that students do.
Yeah.
But so I was one of those students that probably the university doesn't like, because they ruin their statistics. So I changed majors to humanities. I started taking all my drama classes. I was very fortunate. I took classes with Dean Sayas and Victoria Espinosa. So, so I was very happy there. But I took Gen Bio. And it was my general biology teacher who changed the course of my life. So,
wow. And tell me, now that you are on that side, what made him, because I know you're talking about Dr. Javier Rodriguez. So what made you say, oh my God, this is what I love to do?
Well, I think, first of all, I have to, and thank you for saying his name. Dr. Javier Rodriguez Robles was, and it's someone who inspired me when I deal with my students now, because if he wouldn't have cared, maybe I would be a successful, actress, I don't know, or I would be very frustrated going around my life, because I really like what I do now, and I cannot picture myself now doing something different than what I do. But it took him to overhear a conversation and take interest. And so he overheard that I was not a biology major, and I was doing really well in his class. And he cared. And as long as I've been here, I try to pay it forward. And that's my philosophy with my students. I try to listen and pay it forward. And I hope that I have made some difference in some students' life as he did in mine. And we're friends till this day. And he overheard that I was not a bio major. He said, so what are you doing here? I'm like, well, I like biology, but I don't want to be a doctor, and I'm in drama already. And, so I told him the story of my life, the whole mess. I already had taken the class that I did not good, and I passed it successfully. And he's like, you don't do that. You don't do those changes because one class. But, I started college, I was 16, so I was very young.
Yeah, you were very young.
And my dad went to college, but my mom didn't. So I was, first generation in that sense. And I didn't have anybody to really guide me through that process. So he took that mentoring role. And, he was a field biologist. He took me to the field. He realized that I was not good for the field. I am very prototype girly. No, it's too hot. I don't want to sweat, So being in the field, that was not for me, or grabbing animals. So, but he helped me identify what I like about the lab experience, the research experience I did, and why I kept going back to the research. So he helped me identify what a scientist was and what a scientist does. And that's how I was like, okay, so then I just need to find out. So it's not field biology. I'm not going to be an ecologist. So what is it that I want to do? What are the questions that interest me? And that's how, I can tell you, I took genetics and I said, I kind of like this better. And then I took microbiology and I was like, okay, we're onto something. And finally, when I took immunology, I saw like the gates of heaven open. I'm like, this is it. This is what I want to do.
Wow.
So.
Okay. So that speaks so much about the power of professors in the lives of the students.
Yes.
And for me, I experienced that in many of my science teachers throughout high school and elementary school. I had my science teacher in elementary school, Mr. Curvelo was his name. I would follow him everywhere because he was so interesting in the things he would teach us. And what was I? I was maybe 9 or 10, but he just inspired me to say, wow, this is what I like. And that followed later when I was in high school with Professora Lucy Gaspar, who was also a pioneer.
Yeah, you were fortunate to be
Yes,
Lucy's
and she
student.
would always say, because she got me into science fairs and to compete for my first poster, it was not a poster, it was made, I still remember, my grandfather, we built it from a wood panel. The wood panel, and then I would get I don't know how you call this stain to write the things in the wood panel, Michelle.
Oh my gosh.
And that's what I presented, and I got the first prize in Mayagüez. There was, the regional science fair. So I remember La Señora Gaspar always saying, you have to follow your passion for science because you are a scientist. And I would like look at her because I was also thinking, no, I'm just going to be a physician. Say, no, you are a scientist. And later when I became one, she would say, you see, I knew it. So these things happen. And now that we are on that same side where we are training students, we can detect when you know that these students are really want to pursue a career in science.
Yeah, and I think the trick is to let everyone know that scientists, we just want to know and understand how the world functions, how life works, and I think the more we take that message across, it will help more people that maybe have that curiosity identify where they can pursue that passion and that interest, because I just didn't know. I really did not know that there was such a thing as a scientist. It's the scientists were Einstein. The little cartoon of Einstein. That was a scientist, right?
Definitely. So now you finish your bachelor's, and then what happens?
So I switched back to Naturales. I did undergraduate research basically all my years here as an undergrad. By the way, I did pharmacology. I worked with rats and the effects of THC on rats' behavior. We did brain stimulation reward.
Wow.
He was Dr. Bronfield Hein from the pharmacology
Dr.
department.
Hein. Yes, of course.
I worked with him as an undergrad. And so when I finished my college, I wasn't sure I wanted, I wasn't sure I wanted to pursue grad school. So I went through the whole crisis again. Do I want to do a PhD? Then do I do a master's? And I was going to be I did a summer program at the University of Utah the summer before I finished. And there was the possibility of being a lab tech in that lab. So I finished up in December. So I finished not in May, in December, to try to be able to get that job. Because the PI there said to me, I'm applying for a grant. If I get the grant, I'm going to have a lab tech position, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And, well, I finished hoping that I could be a lab tech. And I said, well, this is perfect. I can do research. And she didn't get the grant. So I finished in December. And I'm like, okay, so what do I do now? And at that time, Carlos Santiago, who is a funny person in my story, because eventually became or is my husband. But at that time, Dr. Carlos Santiago just got a Faculty Development Award, and he was looking for lab techs. So I was on campus one day, and I saw him, and I said, hey, are you still looking for a lab tech? And he's like, yes, I am. And I said, okay, I want to interview. So I went to his lab, and I got the position as a lab technician. Initially, my idea was to be there like from January till the summer, till I figure out, apply for grad school. And I did apply for the grad school here as a master's student. I applied to another master programs. And I learned to do molecular biology with him. But I was surrounded by undergrads that were really, just like our undergrads here, are very driven. And he motivated me also to take a graduate course as a transition student. I took biochemistry of nucleic acids from Dr. Magda Morales.
Yes, of course.
And being exposed to that environment, and I did good. I passed the class, which was important. And everybody that was around was like, don't do a master's. You can go for a PhD. Go for it. And so I decided to stay as a technician one more year, work, save some money. I mean, I don't come from a privileged family, so I cannot just go, okay, I'm going to the States, kind of thing. So I worked for another year, and I prepared myself to go to grad school. During that time, Carlos's sister, she's an immunologist, and because he knew I wanted to pursue immunology, he arranged for me to go 1 month to her lab. And I went to her lab for a summer, although I was his tech, he said, go for it. And in the month of July, I went to her lab, and that sealed it for me. And I said, this is what I want to do. Because he worked with sea urchins, still kind of not cute like humans. So I, I don't want to deal with humans, but at the same, but I wanted to do something that was relevant. Clinical, with clinical relevance, direct. I know everything we do, we can eventually extrapolate it to humans, but I wanted something more direct.
So then you got accepted to the University of North Carolina?
I applied to different grad programs, and I was fortunate enough I got admitted to all the ones that I applied, and I was able to pick. I went to UNC Chapel Hill, and I had 5 outstanding years there.
Wow. So you finished your PhD there, and then did you pursue a postdoc, or what happened after that?
So during grad school, I got married, and now Dr. Carlos Santiago is not my boss anymore. He became my husband, and he had a faculty position here. So that, life started to get complicated, because now he has a job here, he has tenure. So we sort of said, okay, I finish my PhD, and I go back to Puerto Rico. So that's when things started I started to try to figure out what I wanted to do. We're talking about 1990s, late 1990s, early 2000s. There were not that many immunologists here on Puerto Rico, not in Rio Piedras. And I knew the kind of research I did. I did a lot of transgenic mice. And flow cytometry. At that time, the only place I was going to be able to do that was in Medical Sciences campus, and I didn't see myself there. So I started exploring what I could do. I went to industry, trying to figure out if that's something I wanted to do. no. And eventually I realized that teaching was what I wanted, and what I did was, once I finished, I stayed for like a summer as a postdoctoral, and I came to work as a contract and went back and did 2 more months. So I had some postdoctoral experience in another lab, but I wasn't able to do like a long 2-year postdoc like other people do.
Yeah, yeah. But then you started teaching here, as
Yes.
you were a teaching faculty at the beginning in the Department of Biology.
Yes.
And so how was that transition from being an independent scientist to now be a professor, a teacher?
So, well, scary. The first answer is scary. But, I think, and not to toot my own horn, but it came natural to me. I mean, to me, I felt comfortable. I really enjoy being in the classroom. I think that's where my drama background kicks in. Dealt with the butterflies, prepare my lecture, sort of like a script, and yes, I'm a character. I'm not, I even tell my students sometimes, like I have multiple personalities, right? So the one you see in the lecture hall is not the same as if you take a lab with me. It's not the same as if you work in my research with me, and definitely not the same that you talk in the office. Mm-hmm. So it's a character, the one that does the lecture and try very engaging, trying to, and so it was scary, but I really enjoyed it, and I mean it felt really natural for me for whatever reason.
That makes sense, because that explains all your student evaluations. They love you.
Thank you.
They think that their experience and research is amazing, and also research and education. That because you incorporate, and we can talk about that, how you incorporate hands-on experiences in your classroom, which makes a total difference for the students. And so the courses that you have taught thus far has been immunology, cellular molecular biology, the lab of biotech. What else have you taught?
I taught the cell molecular lab also. I described and taught the bioinformatics course for undergraduates, the first one. I found this, took this training. So something that I've done throughout my career is I'm not, maybe I didn't do like a 2-year-long postdoc, but I've been trying to keep up to date with what's happening.
Definitely.
So, I took workshops during the summer about bioinformatics, and I described a bioinformatics course before we even recruited a bioinformatician here on campus, and I gave a bioinformatics course. I remember I used to do the class in the computer science facilities because I had teleconference. I had people from UNC and from Duke University teaching my students. This is, early 2000s. This is not, post-COVID era where everybody does, Teams and whatever. So I have tried to keep up with the field, although I am not actively doing research in that area. So I've taught bioinformatics, I've taught the 2 labs, I've taught Gen Bio, immunology, and cell molecular biology, and cell biology when we changed the major. So I've done a little bit of everything.
A little bit of everything. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
So Michelle, we talked about, your all the roles that you play here in an institution, including being a professor. We haven't mentioned that, but you did take administrative positions as you were also our Dean of Students of our faculty, which is our College of of Natural Sciences. Sorry that I've been in different stages right now, but you know what I mean. So, but then I want to focus our interest now toward your work in the Center for Science and Math Education Research. And so tell us a little bit about the story of the center and what are the most recent initiatives that you have been developing.
Great. So thank you for that question. I mean, the center was an initiative funded by NSF. So there was an opportunity to get an institution-wide program to the program was called Innovation Through Institutional Integration. That was the program at NSF. It doesn't exist anymore. So at that moment, we had Sheila Ward in the deanship, and Josefina Arce was at directing A La Cima, but she was about to retire, and there was IGERD and Crescatec. So there were a couple of programs that were funded with NSF, and we brainstormed about this, iCube program, and we thought that we could probably do something with teachers and that will integrate, Crescatec and IGERD and A La Cima. And the idea was to generate a center to pursue science and math education research, not just the education component, but from the perspective of scientists, natural scientists, because there's a center for education research from the College of Education, but our views are very different, right? We are very we're applied, and they will have other questions that are very worthy, but not what interests us from our perspective in natural sciences. So what we did was we proposed to create this center and use it first to integrate these initiatives and have teachers come and do professional development for teachers. So kind of like capitalize on the strengths of all the programs that were going to be combined through the initiative. So we did grad students from environmental science, researchers from Crescatec, and A La Cima had the teachers. So we created a whole curriculum of professional development.
Wow.
And what was new was that we were gonna have more faculty from Naturales, start to get involved in science education research, but also teachers will start doing research, but not only scientific research, but also education research. It's very interesting, but teachers don't have a lot of experience in either one of them. So you have science teachers that not necessarily have done science research ever, or very limited experience, and they also don't have the experience of doing even action research that is very important for them to empower them in what happens in their classroom. So we saw that niche, and that's the excuse that we wanted to create the center. So in the center, we started to agglutinate people that was interested in science education research. At that point in time, we had Lizzie Colon, we had Patricia Borro, so we have several people from our Department of Biology. Dr. Elizabeth Duborsky was there. So we got a couple of people from the college that was interested in pursuing this seriously. And what I did was I started kind of mentoring my colleagues, helping them with stuff like IRB, which is a big, I guess what I tried to do with the center was help people not have to go through all the mistakes I did when I got hired. So from being an immunologist to become a science education researcher, which was the position I got offered at UPR, I had to reinvent myself. I didn't know. I didn't know what assessment was. I didn't know anything about education. So I had to train myself with the, tenure persecuting me and all that pressure. And there was a lot of stuff that at the end, after doing it, it was not, I couldn't publish it because I remember the first thing I did, I was very excited, and then I didn't do the IRB. I thought it because it was in the classroom, I could get away with it. Well, if you're not going to publish it, you want to publish it. So there's a lot of mistakes that you do when you start doing something and you don't really have a mentor like you do in grad school or in your postdoctoral experience. So I sort of envisioned the center as that place where we could all learn from our mistakes and help other faculty that have the same interest that I did. So I helped them with the IRB, and we agglutinated people. And I can tell you, like, one of the first successful things that came out was projects in collaboration with computer science.
Ah.
So we got the Exploring for Computer Science for Puerto Rico, ACS for Puerto Rico, was a project that Edumildo Orozco was the PI, and he just crossed the street to go to the center and said, I want to do this. How can you guys help me? And we brainstormed, and we ended up submitting to NSF, and not in the first try, like it happens to all of us.
Yeah.
But we got it funded, and it was a project to get a curriculum that it was successful in the States. We translated, adapted it, and we started training teachers to be able to teach computer science education in our public schools, which is a big step because
and very impactful.
Yes. So we did that. We were part of that, and that kept on bringing. So I started having a lot of collaborations with our colleagues from computer science. So I actually we collaborated with Rafa Arce. I still collaborate with Jose Ortiz. In different programs. So what happened was we became like a catalyst, and I sort of said, okay, you want to do this, I know this person. And something that never really worked out that I wanted was to do like a seminar series or something that would get us together, even once a month, but that, you have similar experiences. That is very hard with everybody's schedule, but that's what I envisioned for the center. So eventually the funding ended. We have been able to sustain it with additional collaborations. Basically, the university helps me with maybe teaching a research assistant or two when I've been lucky. But we started collaborating with other projects that needed to do outreach. And that's how the center evolved into what it is now.
Okay.
Because it doesn't have funding from the university per se. So what has happened was that I met Ricardo, and he needed to do outreach, and it was the EPSCoR grant that he still has going on, and I worked with him to do all the education and outreach component of that grant. We submitted other stuff with other colleagues. Some of them got funded, others don't. So, but basically, it became how can I keep on developing my area of research and be a space for other people that needed that expertise, so it doesn't just become my little lab,
Right.
So that's
a broader impact.
It's a broader impact. And so basically, what we've had collaboration with the computer science people, a lot of people from biology. Ricardo has been a main collaborator. We've been working together in several projects by now. And of course, then my own projects that have used the network of teachers and the reputation that we have with teachers. So we built up on Alacima. When Dr. Arce retired, she trusted me with the Alacima project, and it was almost ending, and I took that responsibility I was very honored and humbled by she entrusting me that, because that was a big project in Puerto Rico to work with teachers. And he had today you talk about Alacima and people know. So I felt that weight on my shoulders. But basically what that allowed me was to be in a very strategic position that I can pursue my research. I can do my research with my undergrads, which is something that is very important and valuable to me and to my department. But also I can do research with the outreach that I do and with the teachers that we know and that trust us. But by now I have collaboration with Orestes in the CEPA project, which is an NIH funded. So it really, it has allowed me, and I've been very fortunate that I've been able to work with people from all over campus, from different areas, and we've been able to, I think, thinking about, what to advice to leave behind, those interpersonal skills are so important, and being able to listen so we can understand each other, because computer scientists, we joke around that I only know how to turn it on. So I'm not a computer scientist, but I have published on how our undergrads in computer science are developing their identity as computer scientists. So I've been able to research with them and get to know, contribute to the field of computer science education, although I am not a computer scientist. So to me, that has been very rewarding, that I have been able to cross over not only biology education, but also, computer science education. And now with the outreach that we've been doing in many different projects, I've been working a lot on developing a scientific identity. So what can we do to develop scientific identity on the students? Again, trying to see what we can do so they can picture themselves as scientists.
Exactly. I think that's one of the goals in our efforts to train them in science, is to create an identity of what is their purpose, why you're here, how you're going to contribute to your community. And these learning communities, that happen to occur here in our college and in the schools with the teachers, they all have something in common. And then there is the interest of understanding how, biology or chemistry or all the sciences be applied to the interests of us as a society, and what are the values and things. And so that brings me to my last question, that is more about what you're doing now for our project in the Blueprint initiative. And can you tell me one or two of these initiatives that you've been developing right now?
Yes, so in the Blueprint of Life, my role is more broad than what I've done before. So all the other projects I've been working, I either work with teachers or work with the students, so it's just like one homogeneous population. In the Blueprint of Life, we are very ambitious. It's a very ambitious project, and we want to really leave a dent in the whole, pipeline. So I have outreach activities for K-12 students. We have already developed some activities that capitalize on our mother organism, the butterflies, and also on CRISPR-Cas9. So we've taken that to schools, and we also have brought students to campus to do CRISPR with us here, and also to visit the mariposario, or we take the butterflies to them. So we want to impact the whole pipeline. We are still working on, we already did like a interview with teachers to find out what is it that they need. And I'm in the process of developing curricular activities that we can give back to them from what they already told us that they need, that are relevant to the project. In addition to that, so that's the teachers. And then we have the whole workforce development component. That's the undergraduates and grad students. So it's very broad in that sense. And in the workforce development, we want to expose students all from the undergrad to grad students and even postdocs, that with a science career, you can do so many different things. I mean, I love being at the bench, and it is wonderful, but you can be, you can make an impact outside the bench too. And you can be a science educator, you can be an entrepreneur, and we all need, all of those careers are needed in Puerto Rico to be able to do economic development. So because the project has a big emphasis on that, on the workforce development program, we're gonna be doing workshops on entrepreneurship. We have internships with our partners on Cytoimmune. So we already had a student, an undergrad that went to Cytoimmune. She
That's
did
wonderful.
excellent. We've had the CEO of Cytoimmune to come and talk to our grad students. We've had people from Parallel 18 coming to our grad students to let them know what things are happening out there and what they can do with what they are discovering as grad students. And we also want to, and we haven't started that, we are strengthening their computational skills because we need to be able to communicate better with the computation, with the computer science part and the biology, particularly us from the biology background, and also the science communication. That's something that's going to start this summer, and we want to have students, undergrad, grad students, to be able to communicate. And I'm going to take this opportunity because it's so important, particularly on this climate that we have right now in 2025, that we as scientists tell people what we do and how we get to the conclusions that we say, and cross the boundary. I think we have, we're very busy in our labs and in our academia and our classes, and we're on finals right now, whatever, but that seclusion has come with a price. And I think with the Blueprint of Life, I'm hoping that we can put a little, contribute a grain of salt, with this podcast and other initiatives that will allow us to tell the public what we're doing and how, we're real humans. We make mistakes. We change majors. We,
Exactly.
You can be a scientist, although you didn't picture yourself as a scientist, and contribute new knowledge, because that's what scientists do.
Exactly.
Contribute new knowledge. So that's what we're doing. And so I go from going to a school and having a blast with kindergarteners. I never did kindergarteners before, and I did it, and it was so good. I loved it. And all the way from kindergarteners to postdocs, trying to help them develop their scientific identity and figure out how can they best contribute to the world.
Well, then you have a full plate in
Yes.
the initiative.
Just not ambitious at all.
No,
just
no,
a little bit what we want to do.
Just 300 things at once.
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
yeah. But it's wonderful that you're doing it, because I know things will end up being excellent. And I really appreciate you coming here for our podcast and being part of this initiative. And I wish you the very best in these new projects.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Carmen. Thank you for inviting me.
Sure. Thank you. Desde el Origen is supported by the U.S. National Science Foundation through the eRISE program, award number 2435987. The opinions shared here are our own and don't necessarily reflect the views of the foundation.